First off, have you been watching Breaking Bad on my Netflix account?
Should we be discussing this right now?
Yes, this is important. Inaugural Game Losers Radio podcast is here. Hi, I'm your host and editor-in-chief of GameLosers.net, Roger Burton, and joining me today is DeShawn Brown, and I'll let him list off the long list of things that he is. Introduce yourself, Dish.
Hello, world. So I'm DeShawn Brown. At the core, I'm just a man, just a simple man.
Make it quick.
Oh, sorry, you wanted the quick version. I was going to go into my long rant. I have those prepared. But anyway, yeah, during the day, I am an application developer at Credit Suisse, International Investment Bank, so I write codey, nerdy stuff. I also own my own application development business, Lithios Apps. You can check me out at lithiosapps.com, and we make iOS apps for different clients and companies. And also, in my free time, I like to make music under the pseudonym D Money. You can check out some of my music on Bandcamp, good stuff. Also, NBA expert.
Yes, good. So that is jumping right into today's topic, which is going to be a preview of the National Basketball Association season, which begins on October 28th. Now, one of the themes of this podcast is that we are going to present the NBA to you as if you don't know anything about it, because the NBA is in a renaissance right now. For instance, Donald Sterling, who is the old racist white man, just got kicked out by the new commissioner, Adam Silver, who's been in office for just under a year. And what are some other things that we can get people excited about for the upcoming season?
Well, there are a lot of new things happening. The return of the Charlotte Hornets. They were a team that existed back in the childhood days of Roger and I.
And full disclosure, we're both from North Carolina. We've both lived here our whole lives, and we're both diehard Charlotte Hornets fans. Continue.
Yep, but long story short, the Hornets were, how should I say this, they had a very ugly breakup with North Carolina and were since exported elsewhere, but years later, we have reclaimed the Charlotte Hornets moniker and logo and got rid of the old team that we had, which was the Bobcats, but we don't talk about them. So that's exciting to see the return of the Charlotte Hornets. There's also some interesting things. I don't know if you guys know of a basketball player named LeBron James. He's pretty much a big deal.
I'd wager if they know one current basketball player, it's LeBron James.
Right. So he's making his, speaking of coming back home, he's making his hometown reunion by leaving the Miami Heat and going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. But we can talk about that a little later. Yes. So a lot of interesting things happening in the NBA this season. How will the new commissioner fare? How will LeBron do? The Hornets are back. Kobe Bryant.
Will the San Antonio Spurs, a team you may not have heard of but has won 5 championships in the last 15 years, be able to defend the title they won last year?
Very true indeed. So if you're going to start watching the NBA, this would probably be a good year to watch it. A lot of new things happening, I'd say.
Exactly, and that's the reason for this podcast, because the NBA is kind of daunting. There's 30 teams, there's 82 games. The season runs from October all the way to May and June, which is when the playoffs are. And even now, there's preseason games going on.
Already.
Yes. So, as of this date, October 13th, we're in the midst of the preseason. A couple of days ago, LeBron played his old team, the Miami Heat, and accidentally set a screen for somebody on the other team. Did you know about that?
Actually, I had not seen that yet.
Well, I'm sure you could Google it. It's been all over sports news, but he set a screen for Norris Cole, even though Norris Cole is still on the Heat. Now, the people listening might be like, what the fuck is a screen? By the way, we're going to cuss. Anyway, people might be asking, what the fuck is a screen? Well, the first part of this podcast is going to be dedicated to kind of breaking down professional basketball, which is very, very distinct college basketball, which people may also be familiar with. Breaking it down, making it easy to understand, and making sure that you know what the heck is going on whenever you're watching a game.
Yep.
So since we just talked about a screen, DeShawn, why don't you define a screen for us?
Sure, I would gladly do so. So, I'm trying to put this in simple terms. A screen is an NBA play where you, on offense, try to free up your fellow teammate so that he may have an open look at the basket or drive to the hole or basically get his teammate or get his defender off of him. And you do this by essentially just getting in the other player's way so that your teammate can be free to hopefully make a move. And there's rules about how you can set a screen. You can't like grab someone and hold them or anything like that, but you can block their path without using any parts of your body essentially other than just your body. Yes.
And you can't move while you're doing it.
Right. Feet must be planted. So yeah.
Which is why typically the larger players will set screens. And also another important part is that screens are also commonly called picks. And one of the most common plays in basketball is a pick and roll, which is when a player sets a pick or screen, and then once he's set it, he rolls towards the basket. This either frees up the ball carrier for a shot or the person cutting or rolling to the basket for a layup.
Yep.
Now, we're going to assume everybody knows that the very bare minimums, like there's 2 pointers, there's 3 pointers, and even though a field goal is 3 points in football, it can either be 2 or 3 points in basketball. There are free throws that you take when you get fouled. Fouls occur when somebody is either impeded in the process of a shot or another infraction, such as a moving screen.
Yep.
Now, we can get really in deep with fouls. We could probably spend an hour talking about how fouls work, but that's boring. Here's the basics. Every player is allotted 6 fouls per game, and if you pick up 6 fouls, foul out, disqualified rather, and you gotta go sit on the bench and be humiliated.
As opposed to the college basketball, by the way, where you don't get 6 fouls, I believe you only get 5. So you're allotted that extra one in the NBA because it's a little more physical, I'd say. Also, foul shots, free throws, are worth 1 point.
Yes. And another key difference between professional and college basketball is that 3-point line, which if you take a shot behind the 3-point line and complete it, it's a 3-point. You get 3 points. The line is shorter in college as opposed to the NBA where it's longer. I don't know the specific lengths, and I'm too lazy to look them up, so feel free to go on a spiritual journey if you want to find out just how far you have to make a shot in the NBA if you want 3 points. I understand that sounds like I'm being hostile towards my listeners, and trust me, I'm not.
Well, he's just a hostile guy in general, so
Shut
don't
the
take
fuck up!
See what I mean?
Wait, what else do you think people need to know about basketball if they don't know anything about basketball? Michael Jordan doesn't play anymore.
This is a very important fact.
He retired a while ago, guys.
However, you can still buy all of his products, as in his shoes, clothes, and the complete Jordan brand. So he will pretty much live on in the NBA forever. And most people think that the NBA logo is actually the Michael Jordan Jumpman, but they're actually 2 completely different things. But they might as well be the Jumpman.
The NBA logo is Jerry West, a former Lakers player, and he is now nicknamed the logo.
Yeah.
But important thing about Michael Jordan, he is still a very, very influential presence in the league because every great player is compared to Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Every NBA player is required to watch Space Jam before playing in any game. And he is actually the majority owner of the Charlotte Hornets, former Bobcats.
Yes, and he's getting better every year.
Yes, and he is the only former player to own a team in NBA.
So, which is, if there's going to be any former player to own a team, it should probably be Michael. But we won't get into his management skills as of yet.
Yeah, that's advanced NBA.
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on that.
By the end of the advanced NBA podcast, you'll know that when you see a picture of Adam Morrison, you'll just burst out into either laughter or tears.
Oh,
Feel
God.
Feel free to Google Adam Morrison right now, because just his fuck face alone is enough to laugh at. And Adam, if you're listening to this, at least you won some rings.
True, even though you didn't do shit and you have a nasty crustache. But, not your fault, I know.
But teams in the NBA, there are 30.
There
is a Western Conference and an Eastern Conference. This doesn't always make sense because teams like New Orleans and Memphis are, for some reason, in the Western Conference.
Right.
But we just ignore that kind of stuff.
Basically, they had to make sure that they could have the equal number of teams in each division. So sometimes they kind of had to stretch their boundaries. But going off the conferences, each conference also has 3 divisions. And in those divisions are made up of 5 teams. So you will basically play the teams in your division more so than the other teams. You're guaranteed to play every single team in your division a certain number of games, and the winner of the division will automatically get a bid into the postseason playoffs. So the divisions do actually kind of matter.
Yeah, but they really don't matter because winning your division, you're going to make playoffs anyway.
Also true.
It just matters for seeding, which is also advanced NBA. Bare
Right.
minimum stuff, 8 teams from every conference make the playoffs, so 16 teams out of 30 total. And
Yep.
the NBA is, in fact, the only league where a majority of teams make playoffs. Actually, I think the NHL also does that. They also have 16 teams make playoffs in a 30-team league.
Yeah, but they're also wearing skates, so...
Yeah, skates makes it fake.
Yeah, so... No offense to hockey people.
Yeah. It's a very, very, very physically demanding sport. I respect all the players that play it, but the Carolina Hurricanes suck this year, so I don't care about it this year.
Right, bitter. But, yes, But the playoffs are probably one of the most exciting things, if not the most exciting things about the NBA.
Yes, the NBA's tagline is where amazing happens, and as so often happens, amazing happens. That was a fucked up sentence.
Not sure I just comprehended what you said there, but yes, I agree. But it is exciting to be able to see so many teams compete in a playoffs and get a chance to win an NBA championship, which, if you are going to know anything about basketball, it should be that in the NBA, the only thing that matters is winning.
About the rings.
And when you win a championship, you get that championship ring, and that's what it's all about, and that's why Michael Jordan, who we mentioned earlier, is one of the greatest of all times, because he's got those rings.
Yeah, I'll put it to you this way. Michael Jordan's coach, Phil Jackson, who also coached Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal on the Los Angeles Lakers, he won 11 rings in his life. 6 with Michael, 4 with Kobe, 3 of those were with Shaq, and 1 as a player. And his autobiography is titled 11 Rings.
How fitting.
Yeah, so that's how important rings are. The guy who's won the most titled his autobiography, 11 Rings.
Rumor has it that his 11th championship ring, he demanded that they reconfigure it so that he could wear it on his toe as a toe ring since he ran out of fingers.
Yeah, you can look up pictures of Phil Jackson. He's wearing all of them at once and just grinning like a fucking bastard. A brilliant bastard, but still a bastard.
True. Absolutely true.
But that's one of the other big names you need to know about basketball is Phil Jackson, who is currently working with the New York Knicks, who for the past several decades in the laughingstock of NBA.
What a shame, what a shame.
But that's also advanced NBA. For now, we're still in basics, so 30 teams. We'll cover all of those later, including which ones are the favorites to make playoffs and which ones are the favorites to make the lottery, which is what we're going to go over next.
Aha, yes. So I'll start this one off. So the NBA lottery is not quite the same as the average cash lottery that you might be thinking of, as in I buy a lottery ticket and win $1 million, except it's quite similar.
Yes.
Because you could win millions of dollars worth of viewers by drafting the next great player.
And the players getting drafted will also sign contracts worth millions of dollars.
Very true. So there is lots of money at stake. The difference is you and I cannot buy lottery tickets to the NBA lottery. Not unless we were an NBA owner. But essentially what happens is, as we said before, there's a certain number of teams that get into the playoffs for doing well. You have to win games to get into the playoffs and win a championship. But for those teams that suck, then better luck next year. Well, the worst teams get the best chance at, or the highest draft pick, essentially, because since they suck more than everyone else, because, well, they're just shitty teams, then they should get the best or first pick at the best player in the incoming draft, which consists of players from college or the NBA D-League or overseas that are ready to take that next step into professional basketball. So they all apply for the draft and they work out for months and months, and a bunch of draft analysts see who's the best player coming out and who should be taken number 1 overall. But the lottery, to make things fair so that teams won't purposefully lose so that they can get the number 1 draft pick, is basically a weighted system that allows the top X worst teams certain percentages to get the highest draft pick. I'll let Roger kind of further explain the way the lottery
no matter
works.
Even if you lost all 82 of your games, you would still only have a 25% chance to win the lottery, given that no other team also lost all 80 games.
Right.
And a couple of teams came pretty close to that. Because even though the lottery system is meant to stop teams from intentionally losing, teams still intentionally lose.
Oh, absolutely.
Tanking. And
it's actually an art form.
Yes, it's actually an art form, and the Philadelphia 76ers, which we'll get to later, have mastered that art form. Me and DeShawn could probably go audition for the Philadelphia 76ers and become instant starters.
Yep.
Because they like their odds. They just want to lose and get at least a 25% chance at winning the lottery. Now, there's a lot of very complicated math that goes into how the teams from 1 to 14, the 14 worst teams, the 14 teams that don't make the playoffs, how they get into the lottery and everything. But basically, the more games you lose, the higher chance you have of getting a top 3 pick, which is the only 3 picks that they draw. And there's a lot of talk right now about fixing the lottery and how to make it to where teams don't tank anymore and all that stuff. But as of right now, that the way it is the way it is.
Yep.
And obviously teams can also trade picks, trade players. The NBA is notable for having trades happen very, very often. Often they involve very important players and very high draft picks. Several years ago, the Cleveland Cavaliers traded away a draft pick, which eventually became Blake Griffin.
Mm-hmm.
And all they got in return for it was, I believe, Baron Davis.
Which is a tragedy because Blake Griffin has turned out to be one of the most promising
you might know who
young
Blake
players.
Griffin is, but you don't know who Baron Davis is. We know who Baron Davis is because we're basketball nerds, but the average American is like, wait, Blake Griffin, he's the guy for Kia commercials. Baron Davis is not.
Well said.
But we've covered rules, we've covered teams, we've covered playoffs, and we've covered the draft. That's basically all you need to know as an intro to the NBA, and everything else you can pretty much find out on your own because during the games, they'll typically talk about them.
Yep.
So, the games. What teams are actually going to be good this year? What teams are going to suck? So, like Drake, we're going to start from the bottom.
Start it.
Yes, and unlike Drake, Toronto's actually going to be good this year, but like we said earlier, the Philadelphia 76ers have mastered the art of tanking.
They have indeed mastered the art of tanking. Somehow, some way, they managed to completely decimate their entire roster of any raw, promising talent and trade them away for more draft picks so that they can continue to try to get their quest at, I don't know what they're trying to get actually, but it's they are definitely have been, how should I say, the bottom feeders in the NBA over the past few years. And honestly, I don't see that turning around anytime soon, especially this season, because we'll just take a walk through their projected starters and
this is gonna be bad.
Pretty much. So at point guard, they have the young Michael Carter Williams.
He's actually decent. This is his second year in the league, and he won Rookie of the Year last year, if I recall correctly.
Yes, so he is by far their most promising and exciting player. They also at power forward have a guy named Nerlens Noel, who is famous for his high top fade.
Bring it back!
But he was their top draft pick last year, but then he got hurt before the season started and missed the entire season.
He was traded to them in a trade with the New Orleans Pelicans.
Right.
And the 76ers gave up their starting point guard, Drew Holiday, as well as, I believe, their draft pick, got Nerlens Noel. Did not play a single game last year.
Nope. So we'll have to see how that goes. But outside of those two promising young fellows, they have shooting guard named KJ McDaniels, a small forward named Hollis Thompson, and a center named Henry Sims, none of which knows or cares about.
Yeah, they would not they would not start for most other teams in the league.
God be with the Philadelphia 76ers.
Like, if you live in or near Philadelphia and want to get into the NBA, take a couple of years off watching Philadelphia basketball, watch another team, because the goal for them being really bad is that they can be really good, but that's going to take a couple years.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And also near the bottom of the NBA hierarchy are teams like in small markets like the Orlando Magic, the Utah Jazz, the Milwaukee Bucks. But, and this is a very, very important but, there are still reasons to care about those teams. Like, if you like pulling for an underdog, these teams are probably going to be at least kind of trying to win.
Yeah.
And there's good reasons to pull for them. For instance, Utah has somebody possibly be the best ever Australian NBA player.
Which, not sure how impressive that is, but yes. And this would be their shooting guard, I believe.
He's a combo guard. Dante Exum.
Right. So he could play point and shooting guard, I think.
Yes. And quick breakdown, point guard is the guy who typically always carries the ball. Shooting guard is, as it's implied, somebody who's typically trusted to shoot the ball. Those are typically your shorter players. Small forward and power forward are typically the taller players, and then center's typically the tallest player on the team. That's your front court and back court.
Yes. So think about it as your point and shooting guards are typically going to be your quick, small guys who are passing and shooting, whereas your small forward, power forwards are going to be bigger, attacking the rims. Those are the guys you're going to see doing big dunks like LeBron James. And the center's going to be the huge dude standing in front of the rim trying to block everything that comes in his path.
Yeah, like prototypically speaking, the greatest point guard in NBA history is Magic Johnson. Shooting guard, Michael Jordan. Small forward, Kevin Durant and LeBron James. Power forward, Tim Duncan, Charles Barkley. And center, Wilt Chamberlain, Hakeem Olajuwon, etc.
Yes.
Those are players people typically know about.
And for good reason.
Yes.
Because they were all very, very good players. So yeah, you can root for the underdog. It's fun to root for the underdog, especially when they pull an upset on some of the top chiefs.
Like for instance, the past 10 years of rooting for the Bobcats.
Yep.
They made the playoffs twice and lost all 4 games of their playoff series, which is every NBA playoff series is 7 games. And they
were best of 7 games.
Best of 7 games, and they lost 4 games in a row both times and didn't miss a game.
So 0-8.
Yep, but that's fine because
they're gone. Yes. Another sad case though is the Milwaukee Bucks. I do hope to see them do a turnaround this year, but I think they only won 15 games last season, and their roster isn't really helping them out a whole lot, except for their prize draft pick this past year. Somehow they were, I don't know how, but they got a young Jabari Parker.
They were sorry for Jabari, as many sportscasters put it.
Yes. And he's a game changer for sure. He spent his lone college season at Duke, and he coming from an NC State grad here. We both actually, Roger and I, got to see him firsthand, and he's a dangerous guy, that one. So maybe he'll help turn things around with.
But the reason you should watch the Bucks is because they have the Greek Freak.
Yes.
Who's the Greek Freak, Roger? Giannis Antetokounmpo. I didn't pronounce that right, and neither could you. But my God, he is, as his nickname befits, a Greek Freak. He's from Greece. His name is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and he's actually really good at basketball. Like, I'm not just being facetious.
He's not. That guy's actually pretty awesome. And his last name, Antetokounmpo, is the best thing ever.
And the best part is that his little brother, what is his little brother's name? Is it Giannis? It's Thanasis. Yes. Thanasis Antetokounmpo is an undrafted player who's tried out with the Knicks. Actually, no, I think he got drafted. Yeah, the Knicks took him in the second round of the draft.
Oh, wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Antetokounmpo.
Also, he's known for having, like, really big hands.
Yeah, he's got a very large wingspan, which is an important NBA term. It denotes the distance from the tips of your fingers to the tips of your other fingers if you're making a T with your arms.
That was oddly specific.
Well, it's a definition. It's supposed to be specific.
True. But I think his hands are, like, freaking, like, 15 inches, like, long or something, like... Something absurd.
But if you like awesome names, then make the Bucks your team. They have the best name in the league.
Yes.
Other franchises who are going to be hovering around bottom of the league are unfortunately going to be maybe the only 2 franchises a lot of our listeners know about: the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers. DeShawn might disagree with me as a Lakers fan with my evaluation, but they're not good this season.
Okay, let me go on my Lakers rant really quick. All right, so yes, I am a Lakers fan. Really more so a Kobe Bryant fan, but when I was a little kid, I unfortunately missed out on some of Michael Jordan's prime. My only really memory of him live is in the Wizards, but we won't talk about that. But I did get to see Kobe in his prime, and I knew a good basketball player when I saw one. Let me just put it that way. So yes, the Lakers have fallen from glory. They went from winning back-to-back-to-back championships and having some of the greatest runs of all time to last year missing the playoffs and only winning 27 games and being in last place in their division and one of the worst teams in the entire Western Conference.
And also Kobe blew out his knee.
After tearing his Achilles and coming back from said Achilles injury.
But in the preseason, he's looked good. He dunked the other day.
He did. He made his first post-Achilles/knee injury dunk, so that's nice. But yes, alright, I'm not going to be an idiot. The Lakers are still in bad shape, because you have to face the numbers here, and Kobe Bryant is going to be, I think he turns 36 this month, or not this month, but this season. And in my opinion, he's the greatest shooting guard of all time behind Michael Jordan, and he's definitely deserves to be in that conversation, but I mean, I'm not going to put him over Michael, but...
Yeah, but I'm sure our listeners know about Wilt Chamberlain's famous 100-point game. Kobe Bryant holds the record for most points scored in an NBA game by someone not named Wilt Chamberlain. In 2006, he dropped 81 on the Toronto Raptors.
Yes, and I remember watching that game, and I just remember just having my mouth open the entire time. He came back from halftime, and he looked like he wanted to literally murder every single person on the Toronto Raptors bench.
And his teammates.
And his team, actually mostly his teammates, because at the time they all sucked, so he was just like, you know what, I think I'm gonna actually win this game by myself.
Yeah, at one point, if your point guard's name is Smush Parker, you're not doing good.
Oh God, Smush Parker. So the Lakers, they basically they basically went all in this offseason and tried to lure in the biggest free agents, who were LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony.
None came.
Yep, Carmelo stayed where he was at, and LeBron was like, nah, I'm going to go to Cleveland. So instead, the Lakers cleared out their entire roster and cap space and traded away their only good player besides Kobe and Paul Gasol. And they were hoping to sign a big-name free agent, but instead they got no one. So now they have a bunch of no-name players and a bunch of cap space.
And Steve Nash!
Steve Nash, who's 41 years old this season and has nerve-ending problems in his foot, and publicly went on record to say that the only reason he signed the contract to play with the Lakers was because they were paying him a god-awful amount of money, and he was like, who on their right mind would not take the money?
So Steve Nash holds 3 titles. He is not only one of the best shooters in the NBA, but the oldest player currently, the funniest current player, and the most honest player.
Right. So I do admire his candor. And he is definitely first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greatest point guards of all time. So he has, 3 MVPs or 2?
2. He
has 2, and one of them he stole from Kobe. But
hey, I mean, steals are a part of the game.
I see what you did there.
That's basketball humor, guys.
Oh, gosh.
But on the other hand, we can't make this a Lakers podcast because Lord knows there are enough of those already. The Boston Celtics, I believe, winningest franchise in NBA history with regards to championships.
This is true.
Because of a man named Bill Russell who won how many?
12. Yeah.
He was pretty good. That was several decades ago, but they named the Finals MVP award after him.
Yep.
And that's a pretty important award to have named after somebody. I would give it to the guy who won 12 of 12 finals. Anyway, those are the glory days. These are the not so glory days. They did win the title as recently as 2008, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And also he won 11 championships, not 12, I'm sorry.
And once you run out of fingers to count the rings on, it doesn't matter anymore.
True.
But they won the championship as recently as 6 years ago. However, just about every player except one in that championship team is not a team anymore.
Yep.
Shaq retired.
Shaq. I forgot the big Shamrock was on that team, yes.
Ray Allen signed elsewhere. Kevin Garnett signed elsewhere.
Yep.
No, Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce got traded to the Brooklyn Nets, who we'll jump on in a bit.
Yep.
And Rajon Rondo, who is that team's starting point guard, is still with the team, but A, he got hurt last year, and B, everybody basically knows that they're going to trade him.
And they drafted Marcus Smart with their number 1 draft pick, who is a point guard.
Yes. But for all the people out there who care about aesthetics, I've got a very good reason for y'all to cheer for the Boston Celtics to make them your team.
Okay, I want to hear this one.
Well, you might not want to hear this one.
Oh.
The Boston Celtics have, without a doubt, the most attractive coach in the league.
Oh.
I'm sure even you would agree with me here.
Who's their coach?
Brad Stevens.
Oh, yes, because they did have the famous Doc Rivers as their head coach, but that's another story. He since went to the Clippers, and yes, the young, aspiring Brad Stevens.
I mean, hey, Google him and try to disagree with me. Look at a list of pictures of all the other NBA coaches. I mean, a lot of them are very talented, but a lot of them are also not very cute, so he doesn't have the highest competition, but just take my word for it. If you want to cheer for the team for the most attractive coach, go with the Celtics.
Because that's the best reason to support a team.
Exactly. Moving on, we're not going to be able to cover every single one of the 30 teams in this podcast because we have a limited amount of time. So sorry for people who might want to be interested in the Sacramento Kings, the Detroit Pistons, the New Orleans Pelicans. Those are teams that exist in no man's land in the NBA.
Correct.
They're either going to just barely miss playoffs and have a 0.5% chance of winning the lottery, or they're going to make the playoffs but get an 8 seed and get swept in the first round by a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers or the San Antonio Spurs.
Yep.
So let's jump right up to teams that have legitimate playoff aspirations. For one is, hopefully for them, the New York Knicks.
All right.
There's a lot to talk about here.
Well, first things first, as far as the New York Knicks, they took the coach that I was hoping would go to the Los Angeles Lakers, but their coach is this bald-headed dude that likes to go by the name of Derek Fisher. And if you don't know Derek Fisher, you could look him up, but he's pretty well known in the NBA. He won 3 rings with Kobe Bryant as a member of the Los Angeles Lakers. He went on a run with the Oklahoma City Thunder as well. He was president of the Players Association in the NBA. So, you know, a player's guy represents what's best for them and tries to stick up for their rights. And he also just stopped playing like a year ago, and now he's head coach of the New York Knicks. And he's coached under the great guy that we were telling you guys about before in Phil Jackson, who is... His title is president of basketball operations, but really he's just...
he's the king.
Yes. I would call him the New York Knicks overlord, and he probably has decisions on pretty much everything.
Yeah, and he probably insists that people in the administration refer to him as overlord.
Yes. Kobe refers to him as the Zen Master.
Yes. But the thing about the New York Knicks is that they haven't won a championship since the 1970s. They've came painfully close on multiple occasions.
Yep.
And their fan base accepts nothing less than success.
Yep, especially Spike Lee.
Yeah, who's at every game. Who wears stupid hats.
But yeah, they've got a shot because of a guy named Carmelo Anthony, and he's a bona fide superstar, even though some say he's overrated, some say he's underrated. I say he's rated. So
yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
The boy can ball, that's for sure. So if anything, their chances have increased significantly just because of the additions of Phil Jackson and Derek Fisher. So we'll see if they can somehow open the greatness and potential that Carmelo Anthony holds deep inside him.
Next up, we've got another team that narrowly and heartbreakingly missed the playoffs last year, the Phoenix Suns. I think they're going to be great this year.
Yeah, so shout out to my friend Matt Allred. He was the original Phoenix Suns fan. Me and him used to go back and forth about the Lakers and Suns because they were arch rivals. But you know, I'm not really sure how I feel about the Suns. They have my NC State boy and TJ Warren, and they've got Goran Dragic, another cool name.
Also, he has Slovenia. He's from Slovenia, so
yes.
If you love Slovenia, root for the Suns. And also, if you love twins, root for the Suns, because they're the only team in the NBA that has 2 twins on the same team, Marcus and Markieff Morris.
Yes.
And they look the exact same.
They do. The Suns like to have twins. They used to have didn't they used to have Robin and Brooke Lopez?
They did.
So. Well, yeah, also, fun fact, Goran Dragic has a younger brother named Zoran. How cool a name is that?
Yeah, and also they just signed him.
Oh.
You didn't know that? Yeah. Suns like to keep it all in the family.
Well, dang. So now they got Goran and Zoran.
Yeah. So that's another team to root for if you like cool names. And I mean, also their mascot's a gorilla for some reason. Like, their name is the Suns. Their logo is like a flaming basketball, but their mascot's a gorilla wearing an orange shirt. And his name is the Suns Gorilla.
Sounds like the team owner went to a bad Christmas party and it just, I don't know.
I think it was more like a dartboard, just like different concepts. Like, we could have a guy like the freaking Jimmy Dean man, or like the Raisin Bran son, or like a guy with a big sun for a head and threw the dart and it landed on the bullseye, and the bullseye was a gorilla. And he was like, shit, guess we got a gorilla now. So,
God.
The Suns have a lot of stuff going for them. Awesome names, Slovenia, twins, and a gorilla.
There you go. Sums them up pretty good there.
Yep, or should you say suns them up?
Oh my God. Badoonk. Anyway, moving on. Another promising team that I think we have to look out for is, in fact, the Charlotte Hornets.
Woo!
They made a very good turnaround last year, making the playoffs, winning over 40 games, and then they got swept by the Miami Heat. But that's not fair because they had LeBron James.
Yeah.
So, but they're a promising team. They have probably, arguably, the best center in the entire NBA, true center, and Big Al is what we call him here locally. But yes, Al Jefferson. They've got an exciting young point guard in Kemba, aka Simba, aka Dismember Walker.
Cut that post, right? More importantly, they also signed a big free agent for the second consecutive offseason, which is something Charlotte never does historically.
Right.
And that free agent was Lance Stevenson, formerly of the Indiana Pacers, and also the guy who blew into LeBron James's ear this summer.
Which, if you haven't seen that, that's a hilarious video to watch because
during a game, he just blew into his ear.
Just think about a grown man blowing into another grown man's ear in the middle of a game full of, like, sweat, testosterone, and intensity. This motherfucker just blew in his dude's ear. And LeBron's reaction was classic. He was just like, you son of a bitch.
I mean, what are you gonna do?
It was just...
There's no rule for that. You don't...
There is no rules. Oh, God. He brought out his best Dennis Rodman impersonation. Yeah. But anyway, yes, so definitely they're on the come up, we hope.
They also have a guy with an awesome name in Bismack Biyombo!
Bismack.
He's nowhere as good as Giannis Antetokounmpo, but he also has a good name, and he's good at hitting the ball.
Yeah, something like that.
He has some work putting the ball in, but keeping it away from him on defense is what he's...
Very true. And he's a solid rotation player, so we need core players like him.
Every NBA team has 50 players, and we use all those players in the season. And Bismack Biyombo is one of those players on.
Very, very true.
Now we're in the middle area. These are teams that aren't necessarily title favorites, but surprise, we're teaming right along with a very important team, the Golden State Warriors.
One of my favorite young teams, the Golden State Warriors. They've got a guy by the name of Stephen Curry, and this dude can shoot the ball, let me tell you. I've never seen a jump shot as smooth and silky as Stephen Curry's. He gets it out quicker than any player I've ever seen. In fact, they even did a segment on SportsCenter where they showed just how quickly he can get the ball out of his hands, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
it was
basically science.
Oh yeah, the science behind it was ridiculous. He could essentially, you would have to be over 7 feet tall and have less than half a second to react in order to have any chance to block his shots. He's a great shooter. And Drake gave him a shout out in his single 0 to 100 when he said, I quote, "Been Steph Curry with the shot," as in I've always been great. So.
Anyway, if you like, it's very legitimately, his jump shot is very legitimately like a satisfying thing to watch.
Oh yeah.
Like, I feel the same way about Steph Curry's jump shot as people who like go to a symphony, about the musicians in a symphony.
It really is. It's
an art. It's very legitimately an art.
It really is. Like, if I could shoot like Stephen Curry, I would be making millions of dollars and playing in the NBA probably.
Yep. And there's a rumor that he might go to Charlotte in 2016. So there's that.
Boom.
Other teams, that's the Western Conference team, so we'll stick right in the Western Conference with another one of my favorite teams, the Portland Trail Blazers.
The Portland Trail Blazers, yes. I don't know, they've been an enigma to me, so what's your take on them, Raj?
My take on them is that if the Western Conference wasn't like stacked talent, they would dominate it.
Okay, I can see that.
But they have point guard named Damian Lillard.
He can play. He can play.
He can play because in the playoffs last year,
Oh my God.
Yeah, against the Houston Rockets, who we'll get to right after this, he had 1 second to shoot the ball and win the game, so he shot the ball and won the game. Everybody lost their minds, including me.
And me.
Like, I very distinctly remember calling you right after that game, being like, "Did you just see that?" And I was just like a freaking zombie, just hitting rewind on my DVR and just watching the shot over and over.
I would always remember where I was when that shot took place, because I will admit I didn't get to see it live. I had watched most of the first half, and then I went out to a gathering at my friend's house, and there's a big group of guys sitting by a table looking at a dude's phone, and I don't know, I thought they were texting or something, and they just start freaking out. They're screaming, going, "Oh my God! Oh my God!" So naturally I run over, I'm like, what's going on? And then I look at their phone, and just as the replay of what just happened is showing, they were watching the game live on their phone, and I saw him catch the inbound pass, take the shot, win the game, and I was just like, holy shit. It was,
the NBA's tagline, like I said, is where amazing happens, and this is why you should watch it, because stuff like this happens all the time. Like, stuff where we legitimately remember where we were, what we were doing when we saw it happen.
Yep.
But anyway, another team to get into is Houston. Now, Houston is a classic example of getting the best players is not always the key to success.
Yes.
Because, okay, for one, if you like beards, then Houston should be your team because they have James Harden, who has the biggest beard in the NBA.
Very true.
And he's also like a very prolific scorer.
His beard has an endorsement deal, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether to doubt you on that. They also have Dwight Howard, and is he good still? He used to be the best center in the league.
He did.
To the point where, like, Los Angeles got him from Orlando, which was his first team, the Lakers, Los Angeles Lakers, and then
wasted a whole season on him.
He wasted a whole season, didn't care about playing, and then he signed with Houston and wasn't really that good.
Yeah, pretty much. So the Lakers basically just threw away millions of dollars.
So if you like beards and wasted potential, Houston is your team.
Yeah. But yes, Dwight Howard is still, he's a force to be reckoned with. I mean, the guy's over 7 feet tall. He's been in multiple dunk contests, which, if you don't know about the NBA, one of my favorite things that they do is during All-Star Weekend, they have a dunking competition where players just literally do the most amazing dunks they can think of.
Yeah, we'll have an episode of Game Losers Radio up for All-Star Weekend, which occurs in February, where we're going to be talking about the Celebrity All-Star Game.
Oh, snap. Nick Cannon, watch out.
Yeah, the Celebrity All-Star Game, I'll just put it this way. Justin Bieber won MVP once, and Kevin Hart won MVP 2 years ago, so there's your story. That's all you need to know.
Yep. And didn't Snoop Dogg play one year?
Moving on, in the Western Conference.
Yes.
Like I said, it's very top-heavy. There's a lot of talent at top, and among those teams are three big ones. The San Antonio Spurs, the defending champions, and that's really all that needs to be said about them.
Yep.
They have Tim Duncan, they have Manu Ginobili, they have Tony Parker, and those are their three main players. And also, none of those players won Finals MVP for them last year. That's how good they are. Kawhi Leonard was who won Finals MVP last year.
They have 3 Hall of Famers and legends playing, and none of them won the MVP. It's not fair, actually.
Yeah, so like I said, they've won 5 titles in the past 15 years, and the most notable point about that is that none of those titles have come in consecutive years.
Yeah, which sounds like not a good thing, but it's actually more impressive, in my opinion, than winning consecutive games, because that shows that
you just keep rebuilding, getting good players, keeping your players healthy.
Yep. So it's actually extremely difficult to do.
Yeah. Second I said was the Oklahoma City Thunder, and granted, we have a caveat here. Kevin Durant, their star player, and somebody you've probably heard of, and also the best pure scorer in the NBA. He's 6'10" and has a ridiculous wingspan, and also has the silkiest jump shot of somebody not named Stephen Curry.
Yep.
But he's got a fracture in his foot, and he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks.
Yowzers.
But they still have reasons to watch because of a young man and point guard named Russell Westbrook.
So Russell Westbrook is also one of the best talents in the NBA. He's just got so much raw talent. And the thing about him is he plays more, the only word I can think of is reckless.
Yeah.
But it's just like with such just wild, just raw power that it's ridiculous. Like, he runs
He plays
harder.
basketball the way you would drive a car if you were being chased by the cops.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately people have questioned the sustainability of this kind of play.
He's been injured multiple times
for like very, very long periods of times. And also they worry about his mileage. Like, can he play till he's 40? Probably not.
No.
But in the meantime, he can put down the most thunderous dunks that anyone will ever see.
He does things no other player would even think of doing.
Yeah, the man is just raw power. So we'll see how he does with the spotlight. So there's your reason for
watching the Thunder without Kevin Durant is that Russell Westbrook's going to be like, oh, I got this. And everybody's like, Russ, no! And also, their third best player is named Serge Ibaka. So, Serge Ibaka!
Serge Ibaka! Because he blocks everything.
There's a lot of really awesome names in the NBA.
True.
But the third team here is the other team in Los Angeles, the team that for like 40 years sucked, but then a giant conspiracy happened. Now they're good. Long story. That's what happened. It was a conspiracy.
It was kind of a conspiracy.
If you love conspiracies, be a fan of the Clippers. And also, if you love not being racist, because they're not racist anymore. You kicked out that guy. He's gone now.
But he was definitely racist.
Yep. To give him any more screen time on our program would be a disservice. So we're going to talk about players. They've got Chris Paul, who is the guy on all the State Farm commercials.
CP3.
They have Blake Griffin, who's the guy on all the Kia commercials. They have some other players on for some.
They also gained the former Celtics coach Doc Rivers, who's probably one of the best coaches out there. And they have a guy named DeAndre Jordan, who's
he killed really, really on the court a couple years ago.
He ended a dude's career essentially because he dunked over him.
R.I.P. Brandon Knight.
just Google DeAndre Jordan and Brandon Knight, and it'll make you never want to go play basketball with anyone who's bigger than you ever again.
Yeah.
For fear that you end up how Brandon Knight ended up, which was on the court looking up as this guy is slamming down this monstrous dunk on your face.
Yeah.
So that was pretty epic, but
they call the Clippers Lob City now.
Ah, they do.
So if you like exciting basketball, conspiracies, and not being racist, LA Clippers is your team.
True, even though they've lived in the shadow of the Los Angeles Lakers until about a few years ago.
And that covers most of the Western Conference, but a couple of other teams really quick. If you like Germany, go for Dallas, because they have Dirk Nowitzki, who's the best ever international player in NBA history. He's from Germany.
True.
And Memphis, which is, if you like defense, they're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. Defense isn't exciting, but, I mean, you got to do something when you don't have the ball, right?
Yeah,
but
allegedly.
We're going to move on to the East really quick, and we've already been over Charlotte, been over New York. Other teams include Atlanta, the Hawks, who are typically in that no man's land of either barely missing the playoffs or making the playoffs.
As well as teams like Washington, who they're actually on the come up.
They are on the come up. They have John Wall and Bradley Beal.
So they're an exciting team to watch. They could go either way.
And they got Marcin Gortat, so if you like Poland, Washington's your team.
And you guys might know John Wall from that famous infectious song that went out called John
Nobody else knows that song, DeShawn.
But
we only know it because we live in North Carolina. John Wall's from Raleigh. Some rap group made a song about him called John Wall, which is because John Wall in a certain...
It was his famous dance that he used to do after doing something cool.
Anyway, speaking of rap songs, we're going to move right on to Toronto, the Raptors, which is one of the most interesting NBA nicknames out there. But they're going to host the All-Star game in a couple of years. And also they got Drake, I think is actually a fan of them as opposed to just sitting in the stands.
Yeah, I mean, he convinced them to make him their sports ambassador. So essentially, He just walks around and says, "Hey, you should like the Raptors because I do." And people are like, "Okay, Drake," and then he sits on the sideline and yells a lot.
So if you like Drake, Canada, or that's about it, Toronto. But they're legitimately good. Also in this vicinity are the Miami Heat, a team you might know about because LeBron said he was taking his talents to South Beach, and for the last 4 years was talented in South Beach. He, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, and for a brief period of time, Ray Allen. They made the last 4 finals, which is a very, very impressive feat. Only won 2 of them, which is part of the reason why LeBron left. But they still have Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. So if you like Nah, no, we're not going to actually tell anybody to Miami, are we?
Nah.
No.
Yeah, we
Pass
just.
on that.
Yeah, but they did get to 4 straight finals, and so that's impressive.
But if you like Jay-Z, Brooklyn is where it's at.
Brooklyn.
Actually,
now,
he doesn't even... Jay-Z somehow managed to, own 0.01% of the team, but completely change their arena, change their logo, change their branding, change their forms, change everything about them.
change their location.
Yeah, and then just because it used to be the New Jersey Nets, now they're the Brooklyn Nets, and then because he wanted to become a sports agent, he had to sell his stake in the team.
Yep. So he pretty much made the current Brooklyn Nets, and then was like, "Oh, whoops."
But the current owner of the Brooklyn Nets is a eccentric Russian billionaire named Mikhail Prokhorov. So if you love eccentric Russian billionaires and Jay-Z, Brooklyn's the team for you.
Yep.
They don't have anybody good though, do they?
They have the ghosts of people that are good. So I mean, there's that.
They
If
don't
you
even
like,
have the ghost of Paul Pierce anymore. Though. He's in Washington.
That's true. They did get rid of the ghost of Paul Pierce, but they do have the ghost of Joe Johnson, who used to be the best player on the Atlanta Hawks, as well as the ghost of Kevin Garnett, who used to be the best player on the Boston Celtics, and should be given credit for the amount of years that he's played in the NBA, which I think is going on 18. He came in the league when he was 17 years old, by the way.
Yeah.
So for a center to play that long, power forward to play that long is unheard of. And they have Darren Williams, or the ghost of Darren Williams, who used to be the best player on the Utah Jazz. So
if you like ghosts, Brooklyn. But now let's talk about some teams that have chances to win the Eastern Conference. First, we need to pour 40 out for the Indiana Pacers.
Oh, God.
Now, we're both in pain right now because the Indiana Pacers star player, Paul George, while playing for the U.S. internationally this summer for the Basketball World Cup, which you've never heard of, nobody cared about, which makes it even sadder.
And
it wasn't even in a game, it was a scrimmage. It was a scrimmage practice.
Against his own teammates.
Suffered a very horrific injury, which I've only ever seen once, and then I screamed and threw my laptop around.
Yep, I did a similar thing.
He will not be playing this season, and Indiana has gone from the team that had the best record in the Eastern Conference last year to not.
Correct.
So
they're still loaded with talent,
but
even though they lost Lance Stevenson.
You
but
gotta pour this 40 out.
God, it's just, please, viewers at home, listeners
don't look.
At home, do not.
I know that makes you want to look more, but don't.
It's gruesome. It's not worth it.
It's not fun. But we've still got two teams that are very definite favorites to win the Eastern Conference.
Yep, and I
Those
know
teams are?
both of these are. One would be none other than the
Trying to see if we're on the same wavelength here.
Cleveland Cavaliers and Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, there you go. The Chicago Bulls, they have Derrick Rose, who won the MVP 3 years ago, I believe. And then he had two very sad injuries. He's missed 2.5 out of the last 3 years.
Yep.
But he played for the Basketball World Cup nobody cared about for the USA. And he was good. So people in Chicago are excited again. So if you like being excited, go for Chicago.
And pray that man does not hurt his knees, for the love of God.
Ooh, boy. But they have a good coach. They have Derrick Rose. They have Jimmy Butler, Joakim Noah, and Paul Gasol now.
They do. They have Paul Gasol, who some people may think is washed up or past his prime, and he may be past his prime, but he still has just got one of the best basketball IQs of any big man out there, and he's also from Spain, so there's that.
But we're going to close up here with some talk about the definite favorite to win the NBA championship other than the San Antonio Spurs, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who, funnily enough, had the number 1 overall pick in the lottery last year. They had a 1.7% chance of winning the lottery, and they did it, and they drafted Andrew Wiggins, who they then traded to Minnesota, the Minnesota Timberwolves, along with some other guys, for Kevin Love.
Who is probably the most talented. Well, he's definitely, he's a really good player.
Yeah, he's very good. He's a power forward who can shoot the three-pointer, and, I mean, that's good. And then they've also got LeBron, who's good. Kyrie Irving, who's their point guard, who's also very good. But it's the team with LeBron. Cleveland is historically a very, very, very tortured town when it comes to sports the Cleveland Browns, Cleveland Indians, they don't have a hockey, the Cleveland Cavaliers. None of those teams have succeeded in the past 50 years just about.
Yep, it's been very sad for Cleveland fans.
But all of a sudden, LeBron had to write a thing for Sports Illustrated saying about he's coming home, and then they started playing that Diddy song about coming home, and he came home, and now they're excited again.
True that.
So if you like to pull Cleveland, if you like LeBron, and if you like just this, like, it would be probably the greatest thing any individual athlete has ever done for a city if LeBron brought an NBA title to Cleveland.
It's true, and
it's not really a hyperbole either.
It's kind of not, actually, because, I mean, to do what LeBron, if he was able to do it, it would just be incredible. Which, to be fair, after what he did to the city the first time,
yeah,
he needs to do some reparations there. If you don't know the story, he pretty much, not only did he leave Cleveland to go to the Miami Heat, but he scheduled a primetime, nationally televised event on SportsCenter called The Decision. And they basically just played a bunch of LeBron James highlights in his Cleveland Cavaliers jersey, and sat on a stool and got interviewed by Stuart Scott, and he was like, I think I'm going to take my talents to South Beach. And every single heart and every single person in Cleveland was just shattered. Yeah. And it was pretty embarrassing. But he's back, all is forgiven, and he's on a mission to bring what's right to his city. So we'll see. But
that's about an hour's worth of reasons why you should get into the NBA this season. Now's the time. Time is now. Now is forever. Where amazing happens. Just remember that, because it's true. It really is where amazing happens. No, we're not being paid by the NBA to do this. I fucking wish.
Right? Jeez.
But let's wrap things up here. I've been Roger Burton. This has been Game Losers Radio. And DeShawn, where can our viewers, if they want to know more, but listeners, where can they find out more about you? Do you have a Twitter or anything? What is the website where they can listen to your music at? These are prompting questions. I'm trying to get you to say very specific things.
Well, funny you should ask. I do actually have this thing called a Twitter, where you can get live updates on the exciting life of DeShawn Brown. You can follow me at Dish Brown. That's at DISHBROWN. That is my Twitter account. You can also find my music, my debut album, The Destined for Greatness EP, at d-money2.bandcamp.com. There's also links to my SoundCloud on there where you can find some of my musical endeavors. And if you want me to build you an iOS app and you've got at least lots and lots of money, as in like not free, as in I charge thousands of dollars, then you can go to www.lithiosapps.com, LITHIOSapps.com, and we can talk some business. But yeah.
Or just download the apps.
Or just download the apps.
What apps do you have out?
Also, great question. I have this very, very infectious game called Snappy Bird, and hear me out. If you've ever played Flappy Bird and you've ever used Snapchat, two of the most frustrating apps in the history of mankind, well, I combined them to make the ultimate frustrating app of the history of mankind. So you'll have to see it for yourself, but basically, you can take a picture, and instead of sending the number of seconds that you can view them, you send the number of pipes you have to play to get through in order to view it. It's crazy, very addicting. Lots of people hate it and therefore love it. So that's pretty good. You can also, well, I'll just leave it at that. I think that's enough plugging for now.
Okay, and the official Game Losers website is gamelosers.net. We do video games and sports, and maybe we can have DeShawn write us a column one day. And by the time this episode is live, we will have the Game Losers Twitter account active. That will be at Game Losers is probably take. I should have planned this out.
This is Greg L. Mercer, audio editor for Game Losers Radio and Actual Robot. The Game Losers Twitter account can be found at twitter.com/game_losers. I now return you to Game Losers Radio, where amazing happens, and as so often happens, amazing happens.
My personal Twitter account, which is where everything Game Losers has flowed through, is Roger_Burton, and the head editor of GameLosers.net is my one girl, Christy Rivera. Her Twitter account is at @ultra_peanut. And follow us, submit. Game Losers accept submissions, and hopefully you enjoyed the inaugural episode of GameLosers.radio. Shit. That's not a good way to end. DeShawn, save it for us.
We are Game Losers. You are awesome. Come back next time. Listen to our podcast. This has been Roger and DeShawn, the greatest people ever to be created and put on the same thing at the same time, except probably not, but mostly. And we'll see you next time.
I give it a 5 out of 10.
Doing a professional radio show on the internet.